Right now, stop and frisk on trial, and a bombshell piece of testimony today from a former police officer who says that Ray Kelly admitted that they target blacks and Hispanics. We spoke with the man behind that testimony, State Senator Eric Adams. And next, a new day for the Catholic Church. Will the new pope equal change? Well, Carl Doden had a lot to say about that this weekend. And later, opening day for both the Yanks and the Mets. We'll take you live to both Queens and the Bronx for the very latest. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thanks so much for joining us this Monday evening, April 1st. And no, we'll dispense with all the April Fool's stuff. We'll just get right to it. And we begin tonight with a serious subject, that of stop and frisk. Testimony continuing today in the case that has gotten the attention of not just the city but the nation. At issue whether or not the NYPD's controversial policing tactic is used in a discriminatory manner. And today, State Senator Eric Adams, he testified that the New York Police Commissioner Ray Kelly admitted to him that police officers target black and Hispanic men for street stops. Senator Adams said that Kelly made the shocking admission during a July 2010 meeting with the then Governor David Paterson. Senator Adams, a former NYPD captain, said that he confronted Kelly about it at the time, saying, "I told him that it was illegal." Kelly allegedly responded by saying, "How else are we going to get rid of the guns?" Now, we spoke to Senator Adams earlier today outside the courtroom after his testimony.
Right now, Commissioner Kelly had 12 years of saying you can do whatever you want. That can't happen in a city, in a country like America. Someone must say to our law enforcement agencies, you can't do that. And the Handshoe Act did that at one time. After September 11th, we just went away from saying no. We no longer say no to our police department. Listen, there's a quota. You know, there's a quota. If it looks like a quota, it smells like a quota, then it's a quota. And quotas should not be used in law enforcement. Police should police based on preventing actions from harming the public or creating a level of damage to property or individuals. And quotas is not the way to go. And we need to move away from that form of policing. I can only imagine if I grew up during this period of time being stopped as much as these young people are being stopped. I would dislike being a cop. They want to grow up to be cops. And you don't grow up to be a cop when the person that you met, you know, officer friendly is no longer officer friendly. He's officer enemy. And we can't have that. They can't be afraid of the gang members in blue jeans and the police officers in blue uniforms. If you go to the Upper West Side and say to a group of children in the classroom, how many of you ever been stopped by the police? Those children would look at each other and say, why would the police stop me? But go to Brownsville or Crown Heights and ask that same question. The entire classroom will raise their hand and tell you the number of times they were stopped. That's what's wrong. Until the individuals on Wall Street have to talk the stories about their children being stopped, will we see a change in this policy.
Now, during proceedings today, the judge publicly invited Ray Kelly to the stand, something that appears more than unlikely to happen. And joining us now to sound off on this and much more is Evan Thies, founder of Brooklyn Strategies and a former aide to Andrew Cuomo and a former staffer for Hillary Clinton. And he's also knows Mr. Adams, who you just heard very well here. Dominic, political journalist and author, who's been covering the trial for us in Lower Manhattan. Joined also by New York State Senator George Latimer and TJ McCormack, the host of Good Morning Westchester and WVOX Radio 1460. Guys, thank you very much. Dominic, you've been covering the trial here, and I know you know Mr. Adams quite well over the years. What was your reaction when he said that, among other things, Ray Kelly said to him, yeah, we stop these people here and we target these people, meaning blacks and Latinos, because, quote, we want to instill fear in them that every time they left home, they could be targeted by the police. The Ray Kelly, you surprised he would say such a thing?
I find it impossible that the Ray Kelly I know would say exactly in that language. This is a classic case of he said, we were not in the room. The police commissioner is a very smart political person. Richard, I can't see Ray Kelly, who has had, I'm not saying that the senator is lying, but I just can't see Ray Kelly, who has had such high numbers in the minority community, saying such a thing. But the senator did point out to a lot. I'm just so torn about this trial because I know what happens to these Black and Latino youngsters that's not happening to other youngsters, and it's simply not right. But I also know, frankly, just look at Chicago the other day, when a large packs of African-American teens were running around attacking people in the city of Chicago. So I also know that it's Black young men committing, I'm not going to say all the crime, but a large percentage of the crime.
And to his point, Commissioner Kelly denied the comments. He said at that meeting that Senator Adams referenced, I did not nor would I ever state or suggest that the NYPD targets young and Black Latino men for stop and frisk activity. It is not now, nor has it ever been the policy, so an unequivocal denial. Now, this isn't theoretical to you. You work with Senator Adams. In fact, you're involved with his campaign right now. He obviously knew the question was coming today, and he knew the statement he was going to deliver. I'm curious, did you guys have a conversation beforehand? You must have known the firestorm that would come after you delivered that comment on the stand.
Sure. Well, you know, actually Eric brought this up a couple of years ago, and there's a little bit of coverage at the time. As soon as he heard it from Commissioner Kelly, he thought the world should know about it, and he said something about it at the time. Today, he was merely saying it on the record in a legal proceeding, signing an affidavit saying that he heard these things in 2010. And he's talking about it now because he's very concerned about the way the practice is being abused in New York City. Look, there's no doubt about it. When 9 out of 10 people that are stopped and frisked all look exactly the same, we know that there's some profiling going on.
And almost as importantly, or even as much, of those 10, 9 out of 10 are also released without being charged with anything.
That's right. And the other thing that's amazing here is that only 0.13% of the time do they actually find a weapon on any of these individuals. And that is really the reason for these stop and frisks. There's supposed to be reasonable cause. You're supposed to be able to think that this person was about to commit a crime or has a weapon on them. They can see a visible bulge. But in fact, what's going on is they're picking out young Black and Latino men for this sort of treatment, and that's not right.
Well, I'm curious. Senator Adams is right now running for office as well. It's an election season for him too. Would he like to see the abolition of the practice altogether? Because I was surprised. Yeah. We had Bill Thompson here, who's running for mayor right now.
Sure.
And he said, I don't like how it's being used, but I don't want to get rid of stop and frisk altogether. Other candidates, John Liu notably said, let's get rid of the whole thing entirely.
Yeah.
Where would Senator Adams fall?
Well, you know, Senator Adams is a former police captain.
That's why I asked, yeah.
And he was a beat cop during the 90s and late 80s when street-level crime was out of control in New York City, wore a bulletproof vest on a corner, knows a little bit about preventing crime before it happens. He supports stop and frisk because constitutionally it's been allowed by the courts, but not the abuse of stop and frisk. And there's a big difference.
Well, see, for me, Evan, that's the rub as to how you can have a policy that still relies, Senator, on judgment here and discretion. And all they got to do at the moment is write furtive movement. What that means to you and I could be different than it could be to Dominic or TJ or anybody else. Would you want stop and frisk in your district?
Well, I don't think it's a question of wanting it or not wanting it. I think it is a tool that a police department should have at its discretion, but it's how it's implemented and that it be implemented with the proper training and so forth.
But can you have it both ways?
Yeah, I think you have to have it both ways because you give a police officer a tremendous amount of authority. He has the ability to draw a weapon to control a certain moment. But in theory, they're trained to be able to handle that. If you've ever been on a firing range that a police officer might go through, whether he's shooting at a victim or at a potential criminal, I've done it once and I wouldn't want to ever have to do it because I'm not trained to be able to make those moment-by-moment evaluations. I think the key is this is an opportunity for police management everywhere across the state to look at the policy and determine what do they have to do to make sure that it's not being abused in the way that apparently it is, but not to throw out the practice, but just to use it with proper discretion, not to eliminate it.
The quota thing, Mr. McCormack has never, I think everybody says this isn't a good idea. They'll go along with the monitor, the NYPD will, but I just put myself in the shoes of a cop and I say, wait a minute here. If I'm going to get second guessed for the stops I make, maybe very fairly so, why am I going to do it? I think de facto, with the politics of an election coming up here and the world watching, Won't this, in effect, end the policy in its tracks?
Well, it's going to water it down, I would imagine. I would imagine they're all going to be under a microscope. I think, you know, I think also, a guy like me, I hear this story, I think about what they're doing. I think in terms of the neighborhoods where they're going. I would imagine they're going to have just as hard a time finding a white guy as they are finding weapons in that neighborhood.
You're right, but they're making a decision to go to certain zip codes.
Well, he's talking about the Upper West Side. He mentioned in his little thing there the Upper West Side. Well, they're shooting a lot more people in Brownsville than they are on the Upper West Side. So if you want to find a bunch of people who are on the fringe of show business, a lot of wannabes from Broadway, go to the Upper West Side. Want to find a bunch of flaming liberals, go to the Upper West Side. You want to find a bunch of kids in gangs shooting people, you go to Brownsville. They happen to generally be black and Latino kids.
Okay, but
this is my street level. I'm not pretending to be an expert.
At the end of the day,
yeah,
you and me, let's say, got two 14-year-old kids.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm in Brownsville and you're on the Upper West Side.
Right.
Why should my kid, because he walks out of the front door, unlike your kid, probably be stopped for a few times, even if intentions are noble, and your kid doesn't have to think twice about it?
Well, again, that's where therein lies the rub. And by the way, I wrote that line. No, but there it is. That's the rub, and I think that's what we're all kind of uncomfortable with. And by the way, to answer your question, for me, a furtive move is really a lot of things. I'm a wuss. My 4-year-old made a furtive move yesterday. But yeah, no, it's.
And hopefully you didn't cuff and stuff him. But Evan, my point is,
she was carrying it. She was packing.
You need to.
Yeah. No, but. That's where I'm coming down to, which is you just heard somebody make a logical argument. That's where the crime is, so that's where you go.
And that's what the police department is saying, by the way, is that we're targeting geography, not race, and they need to say that legally because even George W. Bush said racial profiling should be illegal under the Fourth Amendment and the Ninth Amendment, and so did Mayor Bloomberg, by the way, when he sent an order down saying there will be no racial profiling in the police department. So they're skirting a line there. But let me just say this. The real reason to do this the right way and not the wrong way is that to really make an impact in these communities where crime is high, you need the community's help. And you're not going to be able to prevent crimes before they start by alienating the community when you put people up against a wall on their way to the market. They're not going to, they're just not going to work with the police.
Can there be a happy ending to this thing or no?
I don't know, because it's so bad. Every black man has to teach his child that it's his son. It's a rite of passage. You will be thrown up on a wall, and you will be searched by officers. If you're having a good day, they'll identify themselves.
I don't want to live in that
Often they don't identify themselves. They cut you off in the car, guns drawn, get up on the wall.
I got to say, he painted an awesome and a very heavy picture for me when he said those kids, they shouldn't have to be scared of the jean-wearing gang members, whatever I'm paraphrasing, the gang guys and the good guys. I got to say, that was impactful for me.
I just want to say, being in the courtroom, I have been in shock at the overwhelming evidence against the police department from witness after. And I feel bad for the city lawyers. They don't know what to do. They're trying to find reasonable doubt, and there is none. I mean, witness after witness after witness.
The question that I don't think anybody can answer at the table is, NYPD at the end of the day says, look at the numbers. Crime's way down. Yeah. But would the crime be way down without it? And nobody knows the answer to that question at this table here, but
probably yes.
That's the dilemma, you know?
Yes.
All right, we take a quick break. When we come back, as we all know, Easter is right behind us, and a new pope now is at the helm. We're asking if a new day for the Catholic Church may be upon us. What we'll do is we're going to let the laity speak here at the table. Stay with us. We'll be right back.